أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Lesson number 256, Surah Az-Zukhruf, ayah number 1 to 25. Surah Az-Zukhruf is a Makki surah, and the word Zukhruf, what does it mean? Decoration, embellishment, beauty, adornment. And this word is mentioned in verse number 35 of the surah, after which the surah is named. And it's mentioned in a context which inshallah you will learn later. But the main theme of the surah, it discusses the reality of the mata'ud dunya. What is the reality of the mata'ud dunya? It is qaleel. It is very little. It is temporary. And by mentioning the reality of the mata'ud dunya, we are encouraged to not get trapped in these mata', but rather focus on the akhirah. And the fact is that until a person does not understand the reality of this dunya, he cannot prefer the akhirah over the dunya. He cannot strive to gain real success. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Hamim, huruf muqatta'at, wal kitab al-mubin, by the clear book. Waw is of qasam. And an oath is being sworn, it is being taken by the Qur'an. And remember that whenever something is sworn by, what does it show? Its great importance. Its status is being exalted. So when over here, qasam is being taken by the Qur'an, by the Kitab al-Mubin, then the status of the Qur'an is being exalted. We are being shown how exalted this kitab is. This kitab, this book is not an ordinary book. Wal kitab al-Mubin, by the clear book. And remember the meanings of the word mubin? That one that is clear in and of itself. So the Qur'an is clear in its message, in its contents, in its main theme, which is the call to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And also mubin, it is clarifying. What does it clarify? The path of guidance from misguidance. What is truth from that which is falsehood. So this kitab, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by it, and He says that this kitab is mubin, it is very clear. إِنَّا جَعَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا. Indeed, we have made it an Arabic Qur'an. Why? What's the reason? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ, so that you might understand. جَعَلْنَاهُ. The word جَعَلَ, what does it mean? Make. But remember that the word ja'ala has several meanings in the Arabic language. Just as the word make in English, does the meaning change depending on the context you're using it in? For instance, you say, I made the bed. What does it mean? You fixed the sheets, right? You say, I made the food. What does it mean? You cooked the food. So the meaning of the word make changes depending on the context that you're using it in. It doesn't always give the meaning of khalq. Isn't it so? It doesn't always give the meaning of khalq. Similarly, in Arabic, the word ja'ala doesn't always give the meaning of khalq. Over here, Allah says, إِنَّا جَعَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا. Ja'ala over here gives the meaning of that we have rendered it, we have set it, we have appointed it. In which language? In the Arabic language. This Qur'an is in Arabic language. It doesn't mean that this Qur'an is a creation of Allah, because it's well known, it's clearly understood that this Qur'an, what is it? It is the kalam of Allah. It is the speech of Allah. So indeed we have rendered it, we have made it, we have put it in, we have revealed it. Qur'anan Arabiyyan, an Arabic Qur'an. Why? What's the reason? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ, so that you all can understand. We see over here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the Arabic language for the Qur'an. Why? So that people can understand. Which people? Who does you refer to? In the first instance, it refers to the Arabs, because they were the first recipients of the Qur'an. So the Qur'an was sent down in their own language. Why? So that they could understand. And secondly, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. Kum is not just limited to the Arabs, but other people as well, because Arabic is the most eloquent and expressive language. What can be conveyed in this language cannot be conveyed in any other language. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the Arabic language above any other language for the Qur'an. Why? So that people can understand. So that people can comprehend its meanings. They can reflect on what Allah has said, and therefore they can accept the guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent. We learn in Surah Az-Zumar, ayah number 28, قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا غَيْرَ ذِي عِوَجٍ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ. That this Qur'an is an Arabic Qur'an without any deviance. Why? So that they may become لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ, so that they may become righteous. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Qur'an in the Arabic language. Why? So that people can understand better. It can impact them better. Because only when they can understand, it will have an effect on their hearts, then they can truly develop taqwa. So, the fact that Allah chose Arabic language, this is for what reason? For our benefit. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. In Surah Ash-Shu'ara, ayah 195, بِلِسَانٍ عَرَبِيٍّ مُبِينٍ, in a clear Arabic language. So first of all, the Qur'an in itself is very clear. The message is clear. And what further makes it clear is the medium, the language that it is in, which is the Arabic language. وَإِنَّهُ, and indeed it, meaning this Qur'an is, فِي أُمِّ الْكِتَابِ, in the mother of the book, لَدَيْنَا, with us, لَعَلِيٌّ حَكِيمٌ, exalted and full of wisdom. Earlier, an oath was sworn by the Qur'an to show its exalted status. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala further says that indeed this kitab, where is it? Fi ummil kitab, in the mother of the book. Indeed it, what does it refer to? The original book. Because remember that at the time of the revelation of the Qur'an, was the Qur'an in the form of mushaf with people? No, they didn't have it. So where is the original book? Where is it being revealed from? From the Lawhul Mahfuz. So وَإِنَّهُ فِي أُمِّ الْكِتَابِ, in the mother of the book. And mother, is also understood as the asl, the origin of something. So the preserved tablet, the Lawhul Mahfuz, is called Ummul Kitab, the mother of the book. Why? Because it is the asl of all the scriptures. Every scripture that Allah revealed, its original is where? Its asl is where? Its original is where? In the Lawhul Mahfuz, in the preserved tablet. So وَإِنَّهُ فِي أُمِّ الْكِتَابِ, and it is لَدَيْنَا, with us. With who? With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning in its status, it is very high, it is very exalted, because it is with Allah. It's the book of Allah. And where is its original form? It is in the Lawhul Mahfuz, in Umm al-Kitab, Ladayna, near us. So, in its status, it's extremely exalted. And Ladayna also gives a sense of that we know that it is with the angels, as we learn in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, ayah 77 to 81, that إِنَّهُ لَقُرْآنٌ كَرِيمٌ فِي كِتَابٍ مَكْنُونٍ, that indeed it is a noble Qur'an in a register that is well protected. No one can reach there and try to edit what's written over there, try to delete what's written there, try to change what's written over there. No, it is well protected. And لَا يَمَسُّهُ إِلَّا الْمُطَهَّرُونَ, none can touch it except those who are purified. And who are they? The angels. Because even people do not have access to the Ummul Kitab. Even people do not have access to the original book. Let alone the shayateen. Even people do not have that. So لَا يَمَسُّهُ إِلَّا الْمُطَهَّرُونَ. And this kitab, تَنْزِيلٌ مِّن رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ, it is a revelation from the Lord of the worlds. The same thing is also mentioned in Surah Abasa, ayah 11 to 14, that كَلَّا إِنَّهَا تَذْكِرَةٌ. No, indeed, these verses are a reminder. فَمَنْ شَاءَ ذَكَرَهُ. So whoever wills may remember it. And where is the original? فِي صُحُفٍ مُكَرَّمَةٍ. It is recorded in honored sheets. مَرْفُوعَةٍ, exalted. مُطَهَّرَةٍ, purified. And exalted with who? With the angels, with the Mala'ul A'la. So وَإِنَّهُ فِي أُمِّ الْكِتَابِ لَدَيْنَا, with us. So who can try to alter this book? No one can. No one can reach there. No one can touch it except the mutahharun. And who are the mutahharun? The angels, who are the obedient servants of Allah. Therefore this kitab is la'aliyyun, surely one that is exalted. It is high. High above what? Every other kalam. Every other speech. Every other book. The status of this book is greater than the status of any other book. Even other revealed scriptures do not have the same status as this book of Allah does. Because this kitab is la'aliyyun. It is exalted in its rank, sublime, high above every other scripture and also any other kalam. It is la'aliyyun. And it is hakim, one that is full of wisdom and one that is also firm. Firm in the sense that none can abrogate it, none can destroy it, none can alter its meanings. It is hakim, it is firm. And it's also decisive. It judges between people. So, over here we see that in these ayat, right at the beginning of the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the exalted status of the Qur'an. That first of all, He swears an oath by it. Then He mentions that this kitab is mubin. And then, the fact that its original is where? In al-Kitab. And it is with Allah, preserved. And it is aliyyun, hakimun, exalted, and it is hakim. So what does it show to us? That this book is a very special book. And this is why those who have been given this book, those who have been gifted this book, how should they take this book? How? In what manner? Being careless about it? Being indifferent to it? No. When this book is so special, those who have been given this book should also value it. They should give it its right. They should be happy on receiving it. فَلْيَفْرَحُوا. They should be happy on receiving this book. And they should give the book its right. Everything deserves, or everything has some rights. If you think about it. And the book of Allah, which is so exalted, also has some rights. The greater something is, someone is, the more rights it has, the more respect it deserves. So when Allah mentions to us the lofty status of this book, then what does it show to us? That it deserves a lot of respect from us. And respect does not just mean that every time, we think about the Qur'an, we think about, not touching it, not reading it. Because that's what we think respect is. No. Respect is that you listen to what has been said over here. Respect is that what is said in the book, you abide by it. Respect is that this book is recited, it is understood, not that it is ignored for days on end. So when this kitab is so special, it also has some huquq. And those who have been given this book, they should give the right of this book. They should value this book. أَفَنَضْرِبُ عَنْكُمُ الذِّكْرَ صَفْحًا أَنْ كُنْتُمْ قَوْمًا مُسْرِفِينَ. Then should we turn the message away, disregarding you, because you are a transgressing people? Just because you're not interested in this book, doesn't mean we don't give it to you? No. Just because you deny this book, doesn't mean we don't offer it to you? No. We are going to offer it to you. We are going to reveal it to you. We are going to tell you what is in this book. Just because you're not interested, we're not going to turn away. أَفَنَضْرِبُ عَنْكُمُ الذِّكْرَ أَفَنَضْرِبُ. نَضْرِبُ from ضرب. And what does ضرب mean? To strike. But the word ضرب also has several meanings depending on how you're using it. When the word ضرب is followed by an, when the word ضرب is followed by an, it is when a person turns away from something and ignores it. You understand? When a person turns away from something, ignores it. ضربت عنه, that I stopped that from him. I did not give it to him. Did not do that action anymore. It is to withhold, in other words. You understand? So ضرب عن is to withhold. So أَفَنَضْرِبُ, shall we then withhold from you what? الذِّكْرَ, the dhikr. What does dhikr refer to? The Qur'an. So this Qur'an, you're not interested in it, you don't want to believe in it, so should we withhold the Qur'an from you? What does it mean by withholding the Qur'an? That we don't reveal it anymore. We don't tell you about what is in the Qur'an. We don't remind you of what is in the Qur'an. So that you're neither commanded nor are you forbidden from anything. You're left to do whatever you want to do, just because you're not interested. Shall we withhold the Qur'an from you? أَفَنَضْرِبُ عَنْكُمُ الذِّكْرَ صَفْحًا. Safh is used for the palm, and sometimes it's also used for the side of the neck. And safaha is to turn the side of neck towards a direction. So when you have the side of the neck facing a particular direction, what does it mean? You have turned your face away. Isn't it so? Because if you're facing something, then the side of your neck is not going to be in that direction. Okay? So, safh is also to turn away. And if you think about it, when a person turns away from someone or something, showing the side of the neck to the other, what does it show? They're not interested. Isn't it? It is a sign of lack of interest. It shows that a person does not have any respect for them. He does not have any respect for the other. He considers it to be worthless, not worth paying any attention to. So this is what safh is. And the word safh is also used for forgiveness. Isn't it so? فَاصْفَحِ الصَّفْحَ الْجَمِيلِ. Safh is also to forgive. Why? Because it is to forgive someone's mistake, ignore it completely, not look at it, pretend as if it never happened, never hold them accountable. But over here, safh, what meaning does it give? Turning away, disregarding, ignoring. And safhan is understood in several ways over here. That first of all, أَفَنَضْرِبُ عَنْكُمُ الذِّكْرَ صَفْحًا. Shall we withhold the Qur'an from you, safhan, while disregarding you, while ignoring you? Meaning that we disregard you, we do safh of you, we ignore you, we turn away from you, and we don't care about you, therefore we don't reveal the Qur'an to you anymore. Why? أَن كُنْتُمْ قَوْمًا مُسْرِفِينَ. Because you are an extravagant people. Shall we do that? No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to disregard you. Just because you're musrif doesn't mean you don't deserve the message of the Qur'an. Secondly, safhan is also understood as because of your safh, because of your turning away, because of your disregarding the book of Allah. So shall we withhold the book of Allah from you, the dhikr from you? Why? Because of your disregarding, because of your turning away. And why is it that you're turning away? أَن كُنْتُمْ قَوْمًا مُسْرِفِينَ. That you are a people who are extravagant, who cross limits. What does it mean by israf over here? You're persisting on disbelief. If you think about it, the Prophet ﷺ was constantly calling people to Allah. But what was the response that he was receiving? Of refusal, of denial. So this was their israf, crossing the limits in disbelief, in sin. They were refusing to believe. And also musrifeen can be understood as that in your shirk, in your crimes, you are musrif. They were an idolatrous people, and besides idolatry, they were also committing many other sins. What do we think? That if a person is very sinful, they don't deserve to be told. This is what we think. That they don't deserve the Qur'an. But what do we see over here? That no matter how sinful a person may be, no matter how much of a musrif a person may be, he still deserves to hear the message of Allah. We think that, it's not going to have any impact on them. But what does Allah say over here? أَفَنَضْرِبُ عَنْكُمُ الذِّكْرَ صَفْحًا أَن كُنْتُمْ قَوْمًا مُسْرِفِينَ. No, we're not going to. We're going to continue to send the Qur'an to you. We're going to continue to remind. Now over here in this ayah, primarily, the people of Makkah are being addressed. If you think about it, the people of Makkah, they were being constantly invited by the Prophet ﷺ. One surah after the other. One way of explaining to them about Tawheed, about Shirk, about the Prophet ﷺ after the other. If you think about it, Makki surahs are full of evidences of Tawheed, evidences of the truthfulness of the Prophet ﷺ. But constantly, what was the reaction of people? Safh, of i'rad, of israf, of opposition, persisting on their sins. And the Prophet ﷺ recited the Qur'an to people, but they were turning away. What do we learn in the Qur'an? فَأَعْرَضَ أَكْثَرُهُمْ فَهُمْ لَا يَسْمَعُونَ. Most of them have turned away, so they do not even listen. But over here we learn that just because someone is not interested in what you have to say, it doesn't mean that you stop telling them. Just because someone is very bad, just because someone is very evil, very sinful, doesn't mean you don't advise them. No. They still deserve to be told. They still deserve to be reminded. And they still deserve to hear the book of Allah. We learn about the mushrikeen even in Surah At-Tawbah. When was Surah At-Tawbah revealed? Towards the end of the Madani period. Isn't it so? 9th year after Hijrah. So much time had gone in Makkah, so much time had gone in Medina, but still there were people who were persistent on their shirk. But what do we learn? That even now after the declaration of disassociation, if there is someone from the mushrikeen who seeks refuge with you, then give him refuge until he hears the kalam of Allah. Isn't it so? So no matter how much israf a person has done, he deserves to hear the word of Allah. Unfortunately, we become very judgmental. Before even we say something to the other person, we think, oh, they're going to say no. There's no point in telling them. No point in advising them. That's our own weakness. Because if you think about it, there were people who were staunch in their opposition to the Prophet ﷺ. But eventually what happened? Their hearts melted. Eventually they accepted. Eventually they became Muslim. So, just because someone is not interested, just because someone has said no the first time, you don't stop your effort. You don't stop from telling them. You continue your work. And this is something that is mandatory on the da'i. Because if you think about it, the people of Makkah, when they were not interested, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided not to reveal the Qur'an to them anymore, what would happen? What would happen? They would be deprived of guidance. Generations after them would be deprived of guidance. And even we too would be deprived of guidance. Just think about it. So it is a great mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that despite the fact that people refuse to accept, He continues to remind, He continues to reveal, He continues to send the message to them. 13 years in Makkah. So many more years in Medina. But still there were people who did not want to listen, did not want to accept. Now doesn't mean you stop. No, you don't stop. Because stopping is not going to make life any easy. It may make the life of the da'i easy, in the sense that he will not have to suffer the hurt of people, the aversion of people, the opposition of people. However, then people are going to suffer for eternity. So, when you call people to Allah, when you call people to the Qur'an, you have to have a lot of sabr. You have to have a lot of firmness. That even when people say no, you have the ability to say yes. When people say, I don't want to listen, you have the ability to continue. Because if your conveying depends on their attitude, you will not be able to convey at all. Think about it. People who sell their products, who have something to sell, anything, whether it's a service, people call you, they send emails to you, they send different types of mails to you, they send people over to your house, going door to door, and you feel as though you're being harassed. You say to them, I'm not interested. They say, can I please have 1 minute of yours? Isn't it? Do they give up? You yell at them. Sometimes people make fun of them. People say the meanest of things to them. But what do? Do they hang up the phone? Do they get upset? Do they mind? And do they say, no, we're not going to tell you anymore? No, they don't give up. Because the thing is that when you have something very important to give, and when you have well-wishing and sincerity for the other, and when you hope for reward from Allah, then you will advise the other person even if he does not want to listen. Even when he does not want to listen, you will still advise them. So a muballigh, a da'i, has to bear hardship in order to convey the truth. Only then he can convey. This is just like telling children. Children, regardless of what age they're of, you tell them once, they forget. You tell them another time, they don't want to listen to you. They know exactly what you're telling them, but they don't want to listen to you. Do you give up? Do you give up? Do you say, okay, fine, do whatever you want? No, you don't. You don't give up. In matters of deen, sometimes we give up, but in matters of dunya, we don't give up. We are very, very persistent. My son these days, when he gets tired, to show his fatigue, sometimes he goes on, whatever he finds, he throws it on the floor. And then I know he's tired, he needs to go to sleep. Now, if I ask him, what is this? He says to me, mess. This is mess. He knows exactly what he's doing. Now, just because he's making a mess, does it mean I let him make a mess? Does it mean I ignore him? He's suffering, he's making a mess because he's tired. He's hungry. Something's bothering him. Do I leave him like that? No. I should not leave him like that. Because if I leave him like that, fine, it may be very easy for me, but later on even I will have to suffer. But think about the child. Think about the other. Because many times people turn away out of what? Ignorance. They don't even know what you're telling them. They don't even know what you're advising them of. And if you stay firm, you keep advising them, you keep telling them in a nice manner, with persistence, then you will see that one day they will listen. One day they will accept. Just like children, you keep telling them, keep telling them, keep telling them, and eventually they know not to throw things on the floor. Isn't it? But if you don't stop them, then children will throw everything on the floor, wherever they are, anywhere they are, whatever they find. So you have to keep telling, even if the other is not listening initially, for them to eventually listen to you. Similarly, when it comes to the deen of Allah, أَفَنَضْرِبُ عَنْكُمُ الذِّكْرَ صَفْحًا أَنْ كُنْتُمْ قَوْمًا مُسْرِفِينَ. No, we're not going to turn away. We're going to continue to remind you. We're not going to give up. And if you think about it, if the other is so firm in his denial, should you not be very firm in telling them? Think about it. If they are so firm, then you should be even more firm. If they have sabr, you should also have sabr. So primarily this is, yes, about the people of Makkah, but this ayah can be understood in the general sense as well. Sometimes when you ask someone, would you like to come? Would you like to listen? Would you like to study? Would you like to come to the class? The initial response is of disinterest. No. I have other things to do. I'm not interested. And sometimes people outright say no. Just because they have said no once, doesn't mean you don't ask them again. You don't tell them again. Because it's quite possible the next time you tell them, the third time you tell them, the fifth time you tell them, they will listen. Sometimes just out of respect for you, they will listen. And eventually they will develop interest. But you have to stay firm. If you think about it, when it comes to our own children, we don't give up. If they don't want to eat, do mothers say, fine, don't eat? No. I've heard so many stories of mothers forcing their children to eat. Just the other day, somebody was telling me about this particular child who would refuse to have milk even. So the mother would put one lap on top of the child and she would literally sit on the child and force feed milk into him. Why? Because it's necessary. I don't think that's the right way, but regardless, when we know that something is necessary for the child, we force it on them. They're crying. They're saying, no, I don't want. But still you'll give it. Similarly, when children are older, they don't want to study. But do parents give up? They don't give up. Why? Because they know that their children are their investment. Similarly, when it comes to calling people to Allah, just because someone is not interested once, you don't give up. Why? Because know that they are your investment. You want reward from Allah? You have to stay firm. You can't give up too soon. People get despaired, they give up hope of rain, Allah still sends rain. So why do we give up hope? Why do we give up hope that the other person is not going to listen? Constantly make dua for them and keep trying. Don't give up. And you have to be firm. So أَفَنَضْرِبُ عَنْكُمُ الذِّكْرَ صَفْحًا أَنْ كُنْتُمْ قَوْمًا مُسْرِفِينَ. That just because you are musrif people, in your opposition, in your disbelief, in your sin, we're not going to stop telling you. And sometimes we see someone who is very far from the deen. And we think there's no way I can tell them. No way I can say anything to them. But you still can. If you think about it, the people of Makkah, was anyone more sinful than them? If you think about it, shirk. So many crimes were common in them. So many crimes. But we see that the Prophet ﷺ still warned them. And he continued to warn them for so many years. Eventually, the khair came out. And remember, in Surah Al-Baqarah, we learned about the different types of rocks. That even rocks, what happens to them? They break down eventually. They fall out of the fear of Allah. And then a lot of goodness comes out. So some people, we might come across them and we might find them as hard as stone. You talk to them, it's as though whatever you're saying is bouncing back at you, is not making any impact on them. Something that scares you, that scares another person, it's as though they haven't heard it. You have told them, but it's as though they haven't heard it. But you will see that if you keep telling them, keep reminding them in a nice way, in the correct way, then eventually they will be affected. Eventually the khair will come out. We are at fault when we give up. So we should learn from the example of the Prophet ﷺ. He didn't give up. We should learn from the Sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. Allah does not stop offering guidance to people. If you think about it, the people of Nuh alayhi salam, did they believe? No. So many people didn't believe. The people of Ad, the people of Thamud, the people of Musa alayhi salam, the people of Isa alayhi salam. If you think about it, what has been the Sunnah? That people refuse to believe. The majority of the people. But just because the majority of the people refuse to believe doesn't mean that Allah stopped sending revelation. No. Allah kept sending revelation until His last messenger. Allah does not stop offering guidance. And the same we have to learn as well. That when the other is not willing to listen, still tell them. The other is not willing to accept, still tell them. And you see, sometimes we think that if you keep telling the other person, he'll get irritated. He'll get bugged. And just out of spite against you, they will not listen even if they agree. Isn't it? Do you ever feel that? Do you ever experience that? Yes. So what do you need then? A change in strategy. You advise them in a different way. If you think about it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet ﷺ in the Quran as well, that turn away from them, hatta heen, just for some time. So leave them for a while. Turn away from them for some time. And we see that the Prophet ﷺ warned them in Makkah for 13 years, and after that, he migrated to Medina. Isn't it? But even in Medina, every time they came across the mushrikeen, the Muslims, did they not give da'wah? Of course they did. Every time they did. So, you have to change the strategy, but you can't completely give up. Remember that. You can change the strategy, but you can't give up. You can't say, fine, don't listen. You can't say, fine, I won't tell you anymore. No, you tell them, but in a different way. You use a different approach. And this is why we should continue to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for hikmah as well. وَكَمْ أَرْسَلْنَا مِن نَبِيٍّ فِي الْأَوَّلِينَ. And how many a prophet we sent among the former peoples. Previously, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent so many messengers before Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But what was the reaction? وَمَا يَأْتِيهِم مِّن نَبِيٍّ. But there would not come to them a prophet إِلَّا كَانُوا بِهِ يَسْتَهْزِئُونَ, except that they used to ridicule him. This has been the norm. That every time a messenger came to the people, the reaction of the people was of mocking at the messenger. And يَسْتَهْزِئُونَ, istihza, is to make fun of someone upon finding them khilaf al-aql, illogical. That what they're saying doesn't make sense. What they're doing doesn't make sense. It goes against logic. It goes against common sense, according to you. So this is what istihza is, to make fun of someone upon finding them khilaf al-aql. If you think about it, when do people make fun of someone? Why do people make fun of someone? Like, for example, why do you make fun of telemarketers? You don't like them. You're not interested in them. You don't agree with them. Right? You think that what they're saying or what they're doing doesn't make sense. Right? So, istihza is a way of takdeeb. It's a way of denial. And it's a way of denying someone so that you don't look bad. Do you get it? Because when you laugh something off, then you are belittling what the other is saying, but at the same time, you're looking so humorous that you don't look bad at all. People don't see you as a bad guy. So it's a very clever way of doing takdeeb. So the previous people, what was their reaction? When their messengers came to them, their reaction was of istihza, meaning of denial. They also rejected their messengers. In Surah Yasin, ayah 30, we learn, مَا يَأْتِيهِم مِّن رَسُولٍ إِلَّا كَانُوا بِهِ يَسْتَهْزِئُونَ. There did not come to them any messenger except that they used to ridicule him. So they ridiculed the messenger, they denied the messenger. فَأَهْلَكْنَا أَشَدَّ مِنْهُمْ بَطُشًا. And we destroyed greater than them in striking power. Greater than who? Greater than the present people, the people of Makkah. فَأَهْلَكْنَا أَشَدَّ مِنْهُمْ. أَشَدَّ, stronger, mightier, fiercer. The people of the past, how are they? Much more stronger than the people of Makkah. And how are they strong? In batsh. The word batsh is from the root letters ba, ta, shin. And batsh is quwwah, strength, might, force, toughness. And it's also used for striking power. وَإِذَا بَطَشْتُمْ بَطَشْتُمْ جَبَّارِينَ. That when you strike, when you attack, when you seize, you attack how? As jabbareen, as oppressors. So, فَأَهْلَكْنَا أَشَدَّ مِنْهُمْ بَطْشًا. The people of the past, they were much stronger in terms of assaulting, in terms of attacking, than the people of Makkah. You see, one is that a nation is able to just defend itself. The other is that a nation is able to attack others. When they're able to attack others, when they're able to fight others, what does it show? Their great numbers, their great strength, the power that they possess. So, the people of the past, they were much stronger than the present people. But when they denied their messengers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them. He punished them. In Surah Ar-Rum, ayah number 9, we learn, أَوَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَيَنْظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. How was the consequence of those people who came before them? كَانُوا أَشَدَّ مِنْهُمْ قُوَّةً. They were mightier than them in strength. وَأَثَارُوا الْأَرْضَ. And they plowed the earth. وَعَمَرُوهَا أَكْثَرَ مِمَّا عَمَرُوهَا. And they built it up more than they have built it up. The people of the past populated the earth. They constructed greater buildings than the people of the present had done, especially the people of Makkah. But what happened to the previous people? When they denied, Allah destroyed them. So in this is a warning. وَمَضَى. And it has passed. مَثَلُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. The description of the former people, the first ones. Mathal. The word mathal, remember, gives us two meanings. Sometimes it gives a meaning of example, and other times it gives a meaning of description. Okay? Mada from the root letters, mim, dad, waw. Mudu, to pass away. When the time of something has passed away, when an incident is over, when someone has gone. So, وَمَضَى مَثَلُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. The description of the previous people has already passed. Meaning has already been mentioned to you in what? In the Qur'an. Right? The description of the previous people has already been given to you in the Qur'an. And the previous people, they serve as an example for who? For the present people. That they serve as an example for the present people. How? That the disbelievers of the past, they were mightier, they were stronger. But when they denied the messengers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished them. And so if the people of the present do the same, then their consequence would also be the same. In Surah Az-Zukhruf, same surah, ayah 56, we learn, فَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ سَلَفًا وَمَثَلًا لِلْآخِرِينَ. And we made them a precedent and an example for the later peoples. The people who were destroyed, they became an example for the later generations. So, people are being reminded that those of you who turn away, those of you who turn away from the book of Allah, who have no interest in this exalted scripture, who don't value this book, remember the nations of the past. When Allah offered guidance to them, and they refused to accept, Allah did not stop the revelation from them. Allah did not stop offering guidance to them. However, eventually their time expired. And when their time expired, the punishment descended on them. And don't forget that. That if you follow the same way, your time can also expire any moment. You don't know when. So in these ayat is also a warning. First, very clearly it is mentioned that just because you refuse, we're not going to stop telling you. And then a warning is mentioned that if you continue to refuse, then eventually your time will also expire as it expired for the people of the past. And we too should take a lesson, because generally when we read these ayat, we only think about those who disbelieve. But we should think about ourselves as well. That if you think about it, many times we learn about something, we don't accept, we don't listen, we don't follow. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He keeps reminding us, وَلَقَدْ صَرَّفْنَا, that ayat, they are mentioned in different ways in the Qur'an. Repeatedly mentioned. Why? So that they serve as a reminder. Allah does not stop telling us. We have to listen. And if we don't listen, eventually our time too will expire. So in this is a great warning.